I think when we're recording this, yesterday was obviously International Women's Day. Do you think that a lot more female brands are getting noticed now coming up, especially in the modern day with the digital age? Do you think that there's more of a bias towards men online, or is it getting the case now where women are dominating and are getting into positions of power online?
I'd say that it's still a struggle for women out there. The biggest thing being that we often have our looks tied in to our value. So I've actually started to really look at my language. So I'm not using the words beautiful or pretty or anything that describes someone external factors, especially a woman's, because I think that then places her value entirely on what she looks like, and removes from her actual achievements. So I would say that men definitely have their own struggles within the kind of entrepreneur and small business world. But I think for women, it's the kind of same old story. And also International Women's Day, I absolutely love it. I always celebrate it. But, it's not about celebrating, and we have to be very careful with this, that it's not actually meant to be a day of a celebration. It's actually meant to be a day of awareness, and there should come a stage where we don't need an International Women's Day, because there is equality. And actually one of the things I did yesterday, because obviously the theme for this year was choose to challenge, and this year I've chosen to challenge modesty, because that's a very patriarchal concept that's placed on women, that we should be modest and we shouldn't big ourselves up. And, this is one of the reasons women aren't visible, because they're afraid to kind of speak up and shout about what they do, or they don't know their value, which means they're undercharging. So I did a post where I kind of asked my audience to celebrate themselves in the comments, because they shouldn't need to wait for any external validation to kind of feel their value. They should feel that from within themselves.
Something you just said there that I hadn't even thought about, but do you think is there a correlation between how much a small business owner or a small brand owner charges for their service or product in relation to how they view themselves? Just with what the line you said about the beauty thing. So, for example, a service-based business, do you think that they would actually lower their pricing based off of how they think they are looking compared to their service?
Not necessarily how they're looking, but how they view themselves, like what they deem their self-worth to be. And I think for women in particular, a lot of that is tied up into how they look. So I know from my clients, a lot of the reason they won't be visible is because they either think they're too fat, they're too thin, they're too old, they've got too many spots. It's all these things that hold them back from showing up, because they're frightened of how the world will perceive them, because this is what the world tells women that they're worth, that you're only worth what your appearance is. And so it's very insidious. It's not like necessarily an obvious thing, but I think, yeah, absolutely, I definitely have gone through a process of where I didn't value myself properly enough, especially as a creative business, because I think you're very tied in personally to your work and what you create and who you are. And so much of your identity goes into it, that it becomes very easy to wind up charging too little, because your own personal value is low.